Well, the long wait is over. The big transportation funding package that we've been waiting on for months was finally unveiled this morning, with less than 3 weeks left in the legislative session to get it passed. Here it is, your run-of-the-mill 175 pages worth House Bill 2025. Now, it's worth noting that even the proposals in this version of the bill are still subject to change over the next few weeks. Now, some of the major highlights include accountability measures for ODOT, big changes to the weight mile taxes, and how diesel fuel is taxed, raising the gas tax, increased and new taxes, and starting the pay-per-mile road usage charge program next summer for electric vehicles. But like I said, 175 pages, so there is a lot in this bill, but we're going to focus on some of the elements that will impact the everyday Oregonians the most. And there will be a lot of numbers coming at you the next few minutes, so stick with me. First, the gas tax. The bill proposes a 15-cent increase over the next 3 years. It currently sits at 40 cents a gallon. A 10-cent jump would start next year, and another 5-cent increase in 2028, bringing the total to 55 cents a gallon. Starting in 2029, the gas tax would be indexed to inflation. Under the bill, the statewide transit tax, a payroll tax to fund public transit, would see steep increases in the next few years, eventually tripling its current rate of 0.1%. It would go up to 0.18% next year, then 0.25% in 2028, and eventually 0.3% in 2030. Now, the vehicle privilege tax that dealers often pass on to buyers is doubling from 0.5% up to 1%. That tax is for the privilege of selling vehicles in Oregon. And then there's the new tax that we've been telling you about when you buy a vehicle in Oregon. The bill calls it a transfer tax. As written, it would apply to new and used vehicles that are priced above $10,000. The tax on new vehicles is 2%. On used, it's 1%. So for example, if you bought a new car for $40,000, you would pay a transfer tax of $800. And here's a look at some of the other major hikes you can expect to pay as the bill stands right now. Registration fees for a normal vehicle each year will jump to $113, up from $43. Moped and motorcycle registration goes up to $110, currently at $44. And getting a new title will cost you $182. License fees are also going way up under this bill. Getting a new normal Class C license will be $100, up from $58. And renewing your license will go from $48 to $74. And even paying for the skills test is also seeing a huge jump. For a normal license, it will be $111, up from $45. And for truckers, the skills test for a CDL or to remove a restriction will be $540, up from just $145. So really, some big jumps there. But now let's talk about the pay-per-mile part of this bill, which lawmakers call the road usage charge. The bill would start that program for electric vehicles on July 1st, 2026, so just over a year from now. Plug-in hybrids would be included the following year in July of 2027. Now, the rate per mile would be 5% of the gas tax. So if the gas tax hike in the bill is approved, the gas tax would be 50 cents per gallon next summer. And 5% of 50 cents is 2.5 cents, meaning EV drivers would pay 2.5 cents per mile. That's $1 for every 40 miles driven. Now, if you want to skip the per mile charges, the bill also allows drivers to pay a flat annual fee of $340. That amount is the equivalent of paying for 13,600 miles. All right, so what are all these new taxes and higher fees going to pay for? Well, the majority is expected to go to the State Highway Fund, which is what pays for basic operations in road maintenance at ODOT and local transportation departments like PBOT. But there are some big annual revenue earmarks for other funds. $125 million per year for the Great Streets Fund, which would provide grants to transfer state-controlled streets to local control and make them safer, the kind of thing that's happening, say, on 82nd Avenue in Portland. $25 million per year for the Safe Routes to School Fund, which does pretty much what it sounds. And finally, $125 million per year for something called the Anchor Projects account, which is intended as a dedicated funding stream for huge projects. Think like the Rose Quarter or the Abernathy Bridge. Now that piece is notable because it comes at a time when ODOT has landed in hot water with lawmakers, specifically because the agency has been struggling to deliver those big projects on budget and on time. And that leads to the next part of the bill focused on holding ODOT accountable. It proposes regular audits on how the agency spends money on both routine road work and major projects. It would also give Oregon's governor the ability to hire and fire the director of ODOT. And whoever the governor would potentially hire for the job would have to be confirmed by a majority vote in Oregon's Senate. So here's what Governor Kotek had to say about that earlier this afternoon.
I think it's the right change for the executive in my position to be able to have hire and fire authority over our agency directors. That change was done in 2017, and I don't think it has resulted in any kind of better service from the agency, and in general support that change. At this point, I'm not looking at any changes in the agency, but everything that I can have for stronger tools to hold that agency accountable will help me do my job and serve Oregonians better with that agency.
So again, none of this is final just yet because there are new taxes included in the bill, and they must be approved by a supermajority in each chamber, 3/5 of lawmakers. Democrats had that majority in both chambers, but a member in the House is out for medical reasons, so they'll need a lone Republican to agree. There's also no guarantee Democrats will vote together as a bloc, meaning some changes may be on the way to sway a few Republicans, and they'll have to move fast. The state constitution requires this long legislative session to end on June 29th.